and not always trying to please everybody else, but to take a look and understand what I want, and how I define success. And one of the barriers was just getting comfortable that it's setting my expectations, not what others think that I should do. And sometimes you get pushed and it's good. I mean, even the VP of marketing job at FedEx, I mean, I kind of had to be pushed to go apply for it because I was kind of in a good place. I was happy. But, I worked for a great boss, Lori Tucker, and, she encouraged me. She said, no, you really need to go for this. And okay, I get it. And I wasn't really being true to myself, I don't think, because I wasn't really that, I wasn't that interested in going for it. But that was a good push, because then once I did, that continued to help me grow. I had more responsibilities. It helped me to grow more comfortable with myself. And, and I think that's foundational. You have to be happy with who you are, know what you like, know what you want to do, know what your lane is.
I'm back with another episode of So What Success Stories. Today, I have the privilege of talking to somebody I'm so excited to be able to call my friend. And when I started my career at FedEx in 2007, I never, ever, ever imagined that this person would be somebody I could say is my friend. I have laughed with, I've talked with, and I've even cried with. And it's just beautiful blessing. So the person that I'm interviewing today is Len Hostetter. So today, I got to look at my cheat sheet. I know, but Len is assistant professor of practice in marketing and executive at W.A. Franke College of Business at Northern Arizona University. So I would have just said he's a professor at Northern Arizona University, but I'm glad he has this big title in marketing. And it makes me think back when I spoke to your marketing class, Len, and we could at the University of Memphis, and we'll jump into all of that. But before we do, tell us a little bit about yourself, Len.
Well, I'm excited to be here too. I mean, it's just so much fun always seeing you, Summer, and I wish we got to see each other more in person. But I'm great to be here. So just a little bit of background on me for everybody. I'm actually a Jersey boy. I grew up about a half an hour outside Manhattan in northern New Jersey, and went through high school years there. Went to college back east at a university called Lehigh. Started out in engineering, but switched to business because I hated engineering. So Dad wasn't happy about that, but that's what I did. And then went out into the work world. Stumbled a little bit the first year, but then I got on track and ended up working for General Motors and a couple of other companies. I had the privilege to go to Harvard Business School for my MBA, and it was on a General Motors fellowship, which meant that it was very minimal out-of-pocket expenses for me, which is great. Rigorous program, a couple other stints, and then eventually came on at FedEx. And that's where I got to meet Summer when she's on my team, and she's great, and she's such a great friend. And worked there for about 18 years. And I retired, when I was 55. My goal was to be in a position financially to be able to kind of ditch the corporate monkey suit and go teach full time. And that's why I'm here up at NAU, or Northern Arizona University. And it's a kick. I just love my job. I went and got certified as a professional executive coach, which has helped me. Who can complain? I'm 62, will be 63 in January. To be around 40 something, or not 40 somethings, 20 somethings, 4 days a week, it's pretty fun. And I love my students. And I think what I've figured out about myself, even though I was born East, I think I was born East, but I vibe West.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just totally me.
I see it. And you know what, Len, you're like, to be a 60 something and hanging out with 20 something year olds better. A lot of people probably think opposite. Like that sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, it is so not. I mean, get paid to do it. It's like a paid hobby, you know? I mean, I just love my students, and really for me, it's about the give back, to try to, you know, take 30 plus years experience, a Harvard MBA. I'm an intelligent guy, and to help people find their lanes and help them succeed. I mean, that's what it's all about for me. And I jokingly said to the dean, I said, you know, don't tell anybody this, but I said, you can tell me you were cutting my salary to $1 a year, and I said I'd still show up.
And I believe I'm with you, Len, on that, because I love being with young people too. And your drive to help them succeed is it definitely is just like mine. So as I'm looking at you, well, first let me tell you this. I was just in Newark, New Jersey, and I caught the ferry over and we caught the ferry to New York, and we went and hung out in Times Square. So I was like literally last week, that's what I did. And I totally forgot you were from New Jersey area. So, but that is cool. And as I'm looking at you, I'm also thinking about how, and I'll get into the questions in a second, but when that connection with you began, and I remember it was Susan who found out about my book, that I was writing my book, that changed my life, everything about my life. And I remember when she said she wanted a copy of the book because her daughter was a teen mom, and she got it. And then she came back to me and she said, Summer, Len wants a copy of your book. And I'm like, oh no. I remember thinking that, like, how did he find out that I was writing a book? I didn't want people to know because I didn't want to get in trouble. I remember thinking all that. And so we had an all staff meeting and in Collierville at WTC. And I remember walking in, and I was walking in at the same time as you, and you asked me again about the book because I was like, maybe he'll forget about it.
No, I won't.
You did, and you asked me about it, and again, and I gave you a copy of it. Probably wasn't a week later, you had read it. I was already impressed that you took the time to read it, and you wrote quickly, and you were very, very complimentary of it. And from that point on, I feel like I've been connected to you, and it meant a lot to me. Well,
back at you, and I just, love you so much. I mean, what else can I say? Great. I think about you all the time. Always here for you.
I love it. I appreciate it. It's so special. So let me get into the questions, because you are an amazing person to me, and I'm super excited to be sharing you with everybody who gets an opportunity to watch this video.
Okay. I expectations.
In the program, I have what I call the So What Success System. And that's when people can learn how to overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and calculate choices. I believe they can have so what success. And that is success in spite of any challenges that you face. And so, Len, over the years, I'm so blessed to know you, and we've shared some of our challenges. And so you are definitely a so what man. Talk about some of the obstacles that you've had to overcome in your life to be able to have the career that you've had and to live the life that you live today.
I think one of the biggest obstacles that I've had, if I look over my entire career, is that it took me a while, but I had to become comfortable with my own skin and who I am. And not always trying to please everybody else, but to take a look and understand what I want, and how I define success. And one of the barriers was just getting comfortable that it's setting my expectations, not what others think that I should do. And sometimes you get pushed and it's good. I mean, even the VP of marketing job at FedEx, I mean, I kind of had to be pushed to go apply for it because I was kind of in a good place. I was happy. But, I worked for a great boss, Lori Tucker, and, she encouraged me. She said, no, you really need to go for this. And okay, I get it. And I wasn't really being true to myself, I don't think, because I wasn't really that, I wasn't that interested in going for it. But that was a good push, because then once I did, that continued to help me grow. I had more responsibilities. It helped me to grow more comfortable with myself. And and I think that's foundational. You
Sure.
have to be happy with who you are, know what you like, know what you want to do, know what your lane is. And the obstacle is, if you don't figure it out sooner than later, then you're not gonna achieve success, and you're not gonna be happy.
Absolutely, absolutely. As you were saying, I was thinking about our conversations and so what we forgot to say in your intro about your wife and your kids. So talk
Oh my gosh, how
about
can I
that before
forget?
before I go to the next question.
Yeah, dude, yeah, she killed me. I mean, she's such a wonderful woman. My wife, Denise, we've been married. It's been like 31 years now. We met drunk in a bar. So that happened in Detroit, where she's from. And we have two great daughters who works for the city of Boston in transit planning. And our other daughter, Kirsty's the older one, Julia is in Chicago. She works as an engineer in water management. And then we have two awesome dogs, Bear and Brady.
That is just
Big
awesome. I
dogs.
just think
And we like Arizona, for the most part. But yeah, my job here is great, and I'm glad this all worked out for us.
that is awesome. I actually just spoke for the U of Arizona last 2 weeks, but it was virtually. I wasn't there. If I would have been in Arizona, I would have been getting to you.
Yeah, I would have been disappointed if you didn't call if you were anywhere out this way.
I think it was like an hour. I was like an hour away last time, but I got in
Yeah,
the
that
car
was
and I'm like,
terrible.
I made it to you.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Well, as I thinking about the girls and thinking about the conversations that we've had, and just amazing to see grown up and how they're in their careers now. It's just awesome. It was just awesome. So I just had to
When they were little.
Yep, they were little. They were little. But it's weird. Time is flying by.
Yeah.
Okay. So you talked about obstacles. So that's the first part of the SOA success system, is learning how to overcome obstacles. We all have them, but we all can also make excuses for those obstacles and not over obstacles. What are some of the excuses that you maybe have made or that you've had to eliminate to get to where you are?
Hey, I'm an open book, and I don't care, at this point. But yeah, I'll talk from my experience. Excuses. One is procrastination. You just put off what's uncomfortable, or something that you even know that you need to do to improve yourself. You just put it off for no good reason, like a fear, or you're afraid. So I think that hurts in business too, because in business you have to be like on top of it all the time. You can't procrastinate. You have deadlines to meet, right? So procrastination is one excuse I used a lot. Second excuse, I think I grew out of this a long time ago, but it hurt me early on, and I felt it like maybe more in college, both undergrad and graduate, where you don't take ownership of what's not going right for you. It's easy to point the finger or go in a defensive mode and make excuses for why things aren't the way they are. But at the end of the day, you own it. And what I always like to tell myself and remind myself, and I tell my students this all the time, is you cannot control what happens to you. You're always going to have curveballs. But what you can control is how you choose to respond. So own it, and then figure out how to do it better, or so it doesn't happen again. And I think the third excuse would be, you don't have time to do something. And I find with me, I way overestimate the time I need to do most things. And I do have the time, but I convince myself that I don't. And I'm looking now, all of a sudden you turn around and you're 35, now I'm 62, and it's like, well, you know what? You got to go for it. Like tomorrow, one of my bucket list items, Northern Lights up in Alaska, flying on the plane tomorrow for 4 days up to Fairbanks. Went and dropped $1,100 at REI, because I love that place, to get all suited up, geared up for this cold weather. But you just got to do it. Don't procrastinate. Don't make excuses. Own it and realize that, you do have the time. You may not think you do, but you do.
You know what? I love that, Len, and that's where I'm at in life too. Is I'm just going. I just got back. I said I was in Newark and New York, and before that I was in San Francisco, and before that I was in Mexico. So I flew in Puerto Vallarta, and I'm at that place too where I'm like, just go, just do, because tomorrow's not promised, for one, right? And even if you live to see tomorrow, you don't want to look back and say, I should have done this, I could have done that, and I could have gone this place. You made me think about two other things. Charles Swindoll has a quote, and I don't have it exactly right, but life happens to you, but it's 90% of how you react to it. So things, you just said that things will happen, but it's all about how you respond to it. And the other thing that you said was about time. And don't forget this, my freshman year of Dean Pettigrew leadership class, I went on a leadership scholarship, and we had a small class, and we got Franklin planners. Did you have a Franklin planner?
Oh my God. Yeah, like back in the dinosaur day. My wife still uses a Franklin planner. I can't even believe that they still make the filler, the new calendars and stuff for it. Yeah, the Franklin planner. We all got trained on it. You know, it was a whole system. Oh my God, yeah.
So this was in our training.
Yeah, crazy.
In our training, he said, and I never will forget it. He said, if somebody says they don't have time for something, or if you say you don't have time, all you're saying is it's not a priority.
Exactly right. That's exactly right.
And so every time that gets ready to come out of I think about it. I'm like, okay, but I want to communicate that it's not a priority. So yeah, I think that is awesome. That is awesome. That was you said a whole lot. You said, okay, the other part of the SOA success system, the third part is calculating choices. So you learn how to overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and then you have to make some good calculated choices. Talk about some of the choices that you've made along your journey to get to where you are.
I would say, like, career-wise on my journey, the biggest choice I made was to retire from FedEx at age 55. And I'll just say it like it is, because like I said, I don't care. Lori Tucker, my former boss, I want to be clear, she had retired and moved on. There was a new leadership in place that, quite frankly, I just didn't share the same values or opinions. And, you know, financially, like I said, my wife and I worked hard together to make sure we saved money so we could have some flexibility. So the choice to be made was, do I retire and hopefully find a teaching gig somewhere, make less money, or do I stay at FedEx, you know, good money, you know, security, that type of thing, and just keep on going? And I'll never forget Laura Alderson, who I came into her class at University of Memphis as a guest speaker one day. And this was like, you know, when I was VP at FedEx, I was like, you know, still doing guest speaking. I was actually teaching part-time, you know, as you know, over at the university. I eventually started teaching part-time over there. And she said, Len, she said, you have to do this for a career. She said, the feedback that I got from the students was so awesome. She said, you really need to think about this. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to call this an encore career. You know, I don't want to be herding cats. I want to teach and help students find their lane. I don't want to be organizing committees. I don't want to be, you know, I've done all that, you know, people issues. You know, when you manage a team of people, you have people issues. I mean, nobody doesn't. So my wife and I talked about it. It was a mutual decision, you know, leave Memphis, move out west, kind of feeling that whole vibe, found a university that, you know, valued an MBA and 30 plus years work experience. 40% of the students here are first generation college. Half the student body is non-white, large Latino and Native American population here in the student body, a lot of international students. That was the environment I wanted to, you know, go to my encore career on. No offense to FedEx. FedEx was wonderful, great people, you know, and very fortunate there, but it was like how I knew it was right. You could say to me, if you stay on for 5 more years, we'll pay you $10 million, which is ridiculous. They'd never, never, you know, that wouldn't be it. But they could tell that to me and I wouldn't stay. So the fact that I could like turn that down, not that I'm all motivated by money, but, you know, it's nice to have flexibility. But I really realized like being honest with myself, like I talked about earlier, I knew that this was the right decision for me, and I think for us to move out of Memphis, come out west, and just do something that I truly, truly was passionate about. And even on in the other, there's all data points, Summer, that go behind these choices that you make. And another, so I had this data point, not crazy about, kind of leadership in place, not shared values and differences of opinions. That was one data point. Second data point was this passion to want to teach and getting an opportunity out here to do so at this wonderful school and this wonderful environment and terrific college I absolutely love. And just finding that happiness at this point. And yeah, I always say, if I die tomorrow, I'm going to be so thankful that I had the opportunity to come here and teach. And I was going to say, even later on in my career at FedEx as a VP of marketing, yeah, marketing was my job, but I found the greatest gratification I was getting, and I'll vividly remember a conversation I had with Michael Dones, and without getting specific, but coaching people on their career and what they wanted to. And I was deriving more gratification from that than my job. So that was another data point. So, you know what? It's time. Somebody else, step up. And I'm coming out here to born east, but vibe west. And come out here and do my thing with my wife.
And grow your hair out and have some
Grow
fun.
my hair, get my ears pierced, have the stubble. Who cares? Nobody cares here.
I love it. I love it. So as you were saying all that, I was thinking about two specific times or incidences with you. Great ones though. So first of all, when you invited me to speak to your class, so you talked about teaching at the University of Memphis, and that was when you were adjunct and you were teaching a marketing class. And I came to speak. You invited me to speak on the 4 C's. I don't know if you remember that, but
I do.
And I was so nervous. I was so nervous to speak. I was nervous to speak, period, anyway, which is so weird that that's the career that I have. But yeah. I was about speaking, then I was so excited to be speaking in your class, because that was before I really knew you and how cool you were and how receptive you already were to me. I remember being so nervous speaking in front of that class. And then I thought it was so ironic that I ended up being an adjunct professor teaching the same class.
Crazy, isn't it how it worked out?
Yes, teaching the exact same class. But I always reflect on that time and me observing you with your class and how you interacted with your students. I'm like, I want to be like that. I want to teach like that.
Yeah.
I ended up doing it, my way. But I remember you and how cool and laid back you were. I'm like, that's the kind of professor I wanted when I was in school. But the other thing, Len, that was huge, I will never, ever, ever, ever forget. Talked about your calculated choice of leaving FedEx. And so obviously I made that same calculated choice. And I
did before me.
And you mentioned Lori too. So Lori, and I don't even know if you knew this or not, but Lori, it was buyout time, remember? And so I put in for the buyout and I didn't get it.
I remember that.
I was at a Women's Foundation luncheon, and FedEx buys up all the tables. And Lori was at a table next to mine. And Lori actually came up to me and she said, Summer, I saw something you posted on Facebook. And I remember thinking, like, what are you doing being my friend on Facebook? And I'm like, what did I post? And she said, you got the buyout, didn't you? And I'm like, I said, no. And she said, you're leaving anyway, aren't you? And I said, yes, I am. Before I even thought about it, I hadn't planned to leave. I didn't know that was going to be my answer. Right. But she said, you're leaving anyway. I said, yes. And I felt like my heart had spoken. Yeah. And at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm not really prepared to leave, but I got to go. And so I told Lori before I told Allison and Steve and you up the chain. Lori knew first. And so I was like, okay, well, now I got to go.
Yeah, tell, because we're all going to know if Lori knows.
Right. And so I set up meetings to talk to the 3 of you, but right. I remember specifically when I talked to you, though. We had 30 minutes. It was a 30-minute meeting. And then I told you, and you were so happy for me. I felt every bit of it. You were so happy for me. And you said, Summer, I pray that when I figure out exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, that I'm brave enough to leave and go do it too.
And I took your lead. It took me a little while to get there, but I took your lead.
It was just a few years later, but I remember you saying it to me, and it was so reassuring for me. I was scared. I was very, very afraid. But you said that to me, and you were happy for me. So even if you didn't say much of anything, the fact that you were happy for me, because not everybody was, and not everybody thought it was a good choice. But you did that for me, and that here it's been what now? That was in 2013. So it's been 8 years, over 8 years, and I still remember the feeling, and I remember the words. And that meant everything to me. So super special to me. So
thank you. Thanks for reminding me of that.
I will never, ever, ever forget it. And then I remember when you left, and I was so glad because we continued to stay in contact, and that doesn't happen. And that was part of what I posted on LinkedIn the other day, is about intentional relationships and how we have continued to stay connected. And we went to X-Line Pizza, and I saw you in your hoodie just like you have. Yes, and you had grown out there. I'm like, the last I saw you, you were in this really nice tailored suit and super low haircut. I'm like, I love it. I love it. And and I loved it too, because I was like, okay, he's really authentically being himself and really in his lane and doing his thing. So the solo success system: overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and calculate choices. And I believe you can have so what success. And that is, no matter how hard life gets or how unfair things are, you can be successful. And like you, I see you right now, you can be happy. You can have joy.
Absolutely.
Personally define success.
How do I personally define success? I think success is we all define, there's all ways to measure. You can talk about in terms of financials, you can talk about in terms of your money, your job. Some people want to travel, whatever. So I would say that success is finding your lane in terms of what you enjoy, what your passion is, and then taking responsibility for acquiring the resources that enable you to do that, whether that's your work or what you're doing, consulting or teaching, or you're living off your retirement, whatever it is. But I think success, it's a very personal thing, and it's what you talked about earlier, like what you feel in your heart that's really important to you, and that makes you feel good. Going back to the start of our conversation, makes you feel good, like I am this person, this is who I am, this is my skin. And and just pursuing that with everything that curveballs that thrown at you, all this stuff that happens, but just stay in that lane and keep pursuing the passion. And it can change, like it changed for you and it changed for me. I mean, it was like an epiphany, like, yeah, this teaching thing is a no-brainer for me. I mean, I had all these data points saying, yes, do this. Well, and I knew, being totally honest with myself, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to do this for my entire career, because the benefit you bring is the real work experience into the classroom with the students. And I really enjoy that. And, I have a lot of smart colleagues that help me to kind of grow more in an academic, I guess, sense. But passion, what you like, and just pursue it with everything, and then accumulate the resources or acquire the resources that let you do what you want to do.
I like that, Len. And you're exactly, it does change. It can change over time. But like specifically, like in that, what makes you happy, and be responsible for acquiring the resources to do that. I like it. And it's that could be money, it could be people, but take responsibility for acquiring those resources. I love it.
Relationships with people, whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so that was great advice. But my last question is that, what advice would you leave for those watching this who want to achieve success, but they have obstacles, whatever the obstacles might be? What advice would you give?
I would say understand what you believe are to be the obstacles. And you might find that some of them are and some of them really aren't, because of those things that you put there that you don't address. I mean, that you don't take care of, but they're really not obstacles. So identify them and then prioritize. Like what, to your success, what you want to achieve, what's the obstacle that you have to bring down? And I remember vividly, like when I was going for the VP of marketing job, when I was interviewing for it at FedEx, it had been a while since I took a finance course. I had finance classes at Harvard, my MBA, but it's been a few years ago. Well, one of the things that I knew in my job to be effective is I was going to have a business partnership with finance and work closely with them. So one of the ways that I built my confidence and the obstacle was the doubt I had in my mind about my ability to hold my ground with finance. I went and audited a finance class, an MBA finance class at Memphis for a semester. Didn't do any of the homework, but just to go get a refresh, because that way that gave me the confidence. That obstacle went away, and it wasn't truly an obstacle, but in my mind it was. So I said, well, how do I overcome this? Well, if I do a refresh and I maybe audit a course, then I'm going to feel much better prepared for this new endeavor, this new responsibility as a VP of marketing. So yeah, so prioritize what the ones are important, and then start addressing them. And talk to people about it too, because sometimes, like, you and I know each other well enough. If you said to me, "Oh, this is an obstacle," I'd say, I'd say, I'm calling bullshit on you, Summer. That is so not an obstacle. But yeah, you got to get out of your head. You know what I mean? You got to get out of your head.
I love it. So 2 things that you said with that, like, first of all, you said things that you believe are an obstacle. That was the first sentence out of your mouth. Then the things that you perceive are an obstacle. And I like that you call bullshit on it. That's a good friend.
Yes.
That's a good friend. And I don't know if you knew this or not, but I have an online confidence class.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah.
You spoke about confidence, and that is so good. What you just said is like, address the things that you're less confident about. Go and learn. So you did that when you audited that class. There are ways that we can address those perceived obstacles, and excellent advice to leave everybody with. And thank you for this interview.
Summer.
But more importantly, I just thank you I feel honored, honestly, and I feel privileged that you saw fit way back then, friend, and to stay connected to me and to encourage me. And like, for real, that big pivotal, probably one of the scariest moments, probably next to finding out I was pregnant when I was 15, leaving my job at FedEx was probably the scariest moment in my life. And you gave me so much peace to do it. And it was a decision I've ever made of the life that I live now, just like you do.
Well, it's a privilege. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to have you in my life. And I just can't say anymore. And there's this friends for a reason, friends for a season, friends for life, you and I. And it's great that we've maintained this all these years, because we've known each other a long time.
Now it's been a long time. Well, thank you so much, Len. I love you.
Love you too.